buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby. Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, friends. How you doing today? It's a beautiful, brisk day outside. It keeps trying to be winter down here, and it hasn't quite got there yet, but it's working on it. 26 degrees outside the old hacienda this morning, so a little crisper than normal, but we're ready to go for a beautiful hump day as we get ready to tackle the rest of the week. Today's show, we've got a big dynamite guests here coming up in hour two. We're going to be talking to now former Senator Mike Shower, who has since resigned as of Monday, and he is running full time in the campaign for lieutenant governor, along with his running mate Bernadette Wilson, who is running for governor. She's going to be joining us in the second half of hour two. So it's a half hour from each. I'm happy. But it's just, man, it's so hard to get into some good discussions in anything. I'm kind of one of those guys that it's the long way around, right? That it takes me a while to work my way around to the questions and the conversations that I really want to talk about. And I don't know. I feel a little jilted when I get less than a full hour with a guest. It can be done. It could be, but it's hard. I like to have those long form conversations because you get some of the most interesting stuff that comes out during those long forms. So, but today we're going to be talking with Mike Shower and Bernadette Wilson in hour two today about their campaign for governor and lieutenant governor. And well, let's just say it's going to be fun. We're going to dive into it and have a good time. Currently reporting up from Fairbanks, 7 above in the flatlands and 17 above in the hills of Fairbanks right now. So still pretty warm up there for a November. I still remember many Thanksgivings going to grandma and grandpa's house for Thanksgiving in the 20-25 below range. So we're still doing okay across the state. Last night or yesterday, I guess yesterday evening was the general election. This is election day, right? And what we're attempting to do across the state for a variety of folks and a variety of outlets or communities is align the election day up with the national election day. And why do we do that? Well, because then there's just one day for elections. I mean, I literally had somebody send me a text message on Monday night from the peninsula and say, "Are we voting tomorrow?" And of course, the answer this time around is no. Next time around, because the voters in the Kenai Peninsula Borough this last election did vote on the proposition to align the borough elections with the national voting day in November. And so next year we will be voting in November on the first Tuesday of November, which is election day. And to me, this seems like such a simple fix. It seems like such a simple fix to get more people involved so that we don't have multiple days around the state, multiple days of voting. It's very confusing, right? For people who are not living and breathing and paying attention like we are here on the program. It's just a different, it makes it easier instead of having, well, this community's having it in November, and this one's having it in September, and this one's having it in November, and this one's having it in April. And, we can all know that no matter where you are in the state, I mean, ideally, what would happen is that no matter where I'm sorry, I'm not feeling very good today, and I'm trying to keep the voice thing going on. I apologize. But, instead of having all this helter-skelter going on, you could know that wherever you are in the state, that first Tuesday in November is election day. That seems like pretty simple stuff, right? It seems like that's pretty, that would be common sense, but boy, howdy. It is not simple. And there are people out there who are actively fighting against that concept. They don't want it. No. They don't want that. And that's a real challenge. The reason that they don't want that is that because they know that if there is confusion and if there is, people forget or whatever, then they know that their small group of, I guess, special interests, that they know that they're going to be, that they're going to have an advantage over everybody else. And that's problematic, because we do know that in circumstances like that, where there's a low voter turnout, there's an outsized impact when special interests and other people have collected their group, and they know that they're going to go in there, and if there's a low voter turnout, they can make or break an election in in their areas. And that's why they're so reticent to talk about wanting to move this. Now, I had to laugh because I don't remember who it was. I think it was Chris Constance in Anchorage. Chris Constant is one of the progressive or liberal assembly members in Anchorage, and he's like, we want to keep our elections in April because it's just too much for people to keep track of with the national elections and the local elections and the state elections. We just don't want to get buried. It's like this thing like, well, we couldn't possibly keep track of all of our own elected officials or offices that we wanted to vote for, right? We're just not smart enough to be able to, keep track of all this stuff. That's why we need to have the election be, months in Anchorage cases, since their elections happen in April. They want it to be months after the regular election. And I just, I would like to just uniform the whole thing, have the whole thing be uniform, and be able to have one day. Apparently I wasn't the only one. Cindy said, I had a friend text me too and ask what we were voting for. It was kind of funny, not funny, right? So it's election day. What are we voting for? No, we had our local elections a month ago. Where you been? Right? So it would just be nice if we could have one uniform day where we all, where all the votes took place in one, everybody knew about it. There wasn't this confusing mishmash of days and months that we need to do the thing. We only have to go through one batch of campaign messages and political commercials and all this kind of stuff. We just, we could do whatever we want, but it's not this constant ongoing thing. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Anchorage, it blows my mind, but it's very obvious why they changed it at one point, because again, they want it to be its own thing and they want to control it. And any discussion about changing that date back has received some serious pushback. In Fairbanks, they were really close to changing it up there to have a standardized election day be on the first Tuesday of November, and it was finally voted down by one. And yeah, doesn't everyone get a little booklet in the mail that tells you what's going on? Sure, but can you keep track, Rick? I mean, especially when you're getting messages that are, bleeding over at a statewide level that, says vote Tuesday in October. And then another one that says vote Tuesday in November. And another one that says vote Tuesday in April. I mean, you could see that there's a little bit of confusion there. And people just get frustrated. They get frustrated with that kind of stuff. Now, the MatSu has changed over their voting date to the first Tuesday in November. And I think this, if I'm not mistaken, somebody in the chat room will have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that this was the first election that is officially been aligned with the November voting date. Okay. So you would hope that this would show show some positive progress, right, with this November election day. You'd hope, okay, we got it on the day. We've got a national elections. I mean, if you were listening to the news yesterday, the newscasts were all starting with, it's election day today, kind of thing. Because across the country, the rest of the country, they're all doing all this other kind of stuff. And so you would hope that this being the first election in the MatSu, utilizing this new election day, that they would they would see some not plausible, you hope they'd see some results. I'm sorry, though, I can't find the word, man. Some substantial results. And I got some bad news. It's not we're going to talk about it in a second. But it's not as great as you would hope. And we have some preliminary results, which, by the way, I couldn't find on it should be front and center on any municipality's website. Should have it like front and center. And I couldn't, I had to dig and actually get it from another news outlet to get the link for the preliminary results of the election, which is a little frustrating. So, but we'll see what happens. But MatSu and now Kenai and now the Denali Borough, according to Barbara, I didn't know about the Denali Borough, have all moved their elections to November. So maybe, just maybe, we can get Fairbanks. Maybe we can get, Anchorage is going to be the hard one. Anchorage is going to be the hard one because they don't want, they do not want the thing changed. They like having it separate and keeping it I guess, keeping it quiet for folks or whatever it is that they're doing there. Anyway, we're going to talk about all that here in just a second. We will continue right after this, the Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Brian says they don't want democracy in Anchorage. No, what they want to do is they want to march down the street screaming, "This is what democracy looks like," with a bunch of, black-clad ninjas or something. They want to control the democracy. See, that's the thing. They don't want it to move to a different date because they know that with the special interests and the folks that they can get rallied, that if they can keep the voter turnout low, they can continue to dominate the elections. They don't want it to go to the same day when it has to, like election day for a president or something else like that, or a governor. They want it to be completely opposite of that because they know that a big race like a gubernatorial race or a presidential race will bring out people who will support conservative candidates. And they don't want. That's, to me, it makes no sense. Again, there should be one, and why not? You know what? Make it a holiday. Make it a national holiday. Today's voting day. Everybody gets the day off. Go out and vote. You got no excuse. I don't know if that would increase the voter turnout, but it'd be a day that I would want to celebrate, being able to at least go out and have a say in what's going on. I would think that would be good. Scrolling backwards here. Brian says, despite being a victim of government schools, I am able to keep track of the elections. Yeah. Again, I thought when Chris Constant said that, like that people just couldn't possibly keep track of all the different, differing. And I'm just like, man, well, first of all, that refrain seems familiar, right? Because you people, you couldn't possibly keep track of your own money and be able to take care of your own stuff. You need, you need help from us. You need help from us to be able to, we'll decide for you how to spend that, right? Doesn't it feel that way? You couldn't possibly get an ID and be able to go vote, even though you need an ID for everything. You're not possibly smart enough or, competent enough to go get an ID. You need to be able to vote without ID. So you couldn't possibly, it's the same kind of thing, right? It's kind of crazy. Couldn't possibly hold enough brain power to be able to track the different people in the different elections. It's crazy. Harold just said national politics is seeping into local communities. Lots of federal failures are falling to localities to pick up. Well, and that's the problem. When we become so dependent on everything that this kind of stuff is now falling to the communities, that shows the weakness of the system and how we shouldn't be dependent on those things. Right? That's really what it shows us, Harold. Am I wrong? That dependency state that we've talked about? Barbara says, no, if they can have elections in April, then move to the rest of the state in subsequent elections, then in November, bring their people back to Anchorage. Well, yeah, I guess. It's some crazy. New York is going to be even a bigger poop show. Shaking my head at vote. Yeah, I know. Mandani has won in New York City. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near New York City right now. I mean, you get what you get what you pay for. You're going to get what you voted for. That's the good news and the bad news. I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I've just got my popcorn over here, and I'm just kind of, watching with a mouthful of popcorn as it goes away. All right. Would a full PFD cut down on the need for such dependence, says Richie. Ooh, shots fired. You're not wrong, my friend. You are not wrong. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay, continuing on now. We are jumping into this here, the election results for what's going on. And there's some really interesting things here. This is election results for the MatSu borough. Because obviously, Fairbanks and Kenai had already had their elections back in October. But MatSu aligned with the national elections, which the Kenai has now done. So next year we'll be all in the same boat for the Kenai and the MatSu, and Fairbanks will be out in the cold. But remember, I was just talking about the number of voters that are out there, and that the movement to the November day, the first Tuesday in November, ostensibly was to get more people involved. But I think that there's still a lot of confusion out there. I think that this is the first election that they've held on the first Tuesday in November for their borough, municipal elections. And it's not as great as we had hoped. Voter turnout in the MatSu, 11.83%. 11.83% out of 97,000 registered voters. They had just 11,498 votes cast out of 97,000 vote. I just want you to think about that for a minute. I just want you to consider that for just a hot minute. That you had almost 100,000 voters, and you're going to have 11,500 voters essentially direct where you're going in the future. I mean, it's kind of, this again goes right back to what I've been saying for years, which is government is what happens to you when you stop paying attention. And I know many of, maybe not so much you, the listeners, but many of your friends, many of your cohorts, co-workers, family members, they're just sick of the politics. I was having a conversation yesterday. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday. It was yesterday. I was having a conversation with the guy at the post office here. And we were just talking about something. And then, and he just said, yeah, he goes, he goes, man, you just gotta, in today's society, you just kind of gotta get, bullet for everything is. And I'm like, everything is political. He's like, yeah. He's like, he couldn't articulate it, but he's just like, yeah. And it is, it's exhausting. It's exhausting when everything becomes political. And I think that has caused a lot of people to disengage from their form of governance. And I'm not so sure, quite honestly, that that's not part of the overall plan, right? I mean, I haven't read Rules for Radicals in years, but you know, when you make the environment so toxic to be able to do everything, do people just really, was it part of the plan to just make them stop paying attention? And then that small cadre of people who are engaged can still direct where the government goes? Brian says, this is how democracy dies. The MatSu borough has averaged 22% since 1978. Pretty sad. So this off-cycle election, meaning it's not a presidential year, right? Off-cycle election, 11.83% voter turnout. Now, even with this, it's there's still some good news in there. All right, there's still some good news. These are unofficial election results. And again, the MatSu borough, they did it all. I guess they did it all by hand, right? Because they don't have any more machines. So they did it all by hand, which again is impressive in and of itself. But 11.83% voter turnout, and some of the races that we were watching, the one I was watching with great interest was the one that included Michael Bowles in District 1. Because as you'll recall, Michael's been on the program a couple times. He's talked about a few things. He's unapologetically conservative. And you'll remember that I had this really weird interaction with Michelle Hune, who had wanted to come on the program, and then she's like, nope, she's just declining to come on the program. She had this thing about some kind of controversy she was talking about that I had no idea about. You know, she was like, with all the controversy, I don't know if I want to come on, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But she eventually basically said, no, I just don't want to come on your show. I'm like, okay. I mean, you're free to decline. And then, of course, I see the fact that Michelle was running as an undeclared independent against Michael Bowles. Yet when you looked at her APOC reporting and all of her previous contributions, and she was contributing to all the known progressive players, right? So is she really a independent undeclared? The answer to that is no. The answer to that is no. She's trying to fly under the radar. And the good news is they weren't buying it. Preliminary results for District 1. Michael Bowles by almost a 2-to-1 margin. 1,721 votes for Michael Bowles, 949 votes for Michelle Hune. So the guy running on the unapologetically conservative platform versus the gal who's trying to hide, apparently, what it appears to be, trying to hide what her true affiliations and what her true beliefs are, doesn't want to come on the program. Michael Bowles is on 2 or 3 times. So good news there. Assembly District number 2 was Stephanie Nowers and Dana Raffanello. Dana was the one endorsed by the Alaska Gun Rights Association, if I remember correctly. Stephanie is the incumbent. She's got some kind of track record. And I think she's a more moderate conservative, although I was a little troubled by her answer on the it was a gun range question on the Alaska gun rights. Not a very good one either, quite honestly, but it was a gun range question. And I was a little concerned. She answered that she also would not vote to restrict gun ranges, but her answer was not as definitive, I guess. Anyway, doesn't matter. Stephanie Nowers is going to be going back to the assembly in District 2, beating out the challenger, Dana Raffanello, 2-to-1, 1,384 to 541 votes. Maxwell Sumner, running unopposed, came away with 90% of the vote, 92% of the vote, I guess. Still 76 write-in candidates for Maxwell Sumner's district in District 4. It is what it is. It is what it is. Moderate liberal, more likely, says Brian, when it comes to Stephanie Nowers. And again, I wasn't really paying that close of attention to what she was doing, but there you go. Then you get into the school districts, and the good news, I think, is that Kendall Cruz, who was the school board president, right? She's the president of the school board. Anyway, she, again, almost by a 2-1 margin, won re-election across the state. Across the district, rather. 1251 to 751 from Gage Saxon, who declined my this is what kills me. I'd sent out an invite letter to all the candidates. What was this? When did we start having interviews? Back in August, September? Gage Saxon replied to my request for an interview yesterday. Election day. Like, no, I'm sorry, I can't be bothered to come, whatever it was. And I was just like, because it popped up and I'm like, what's, and then it was, okay. I mean, and maybe that's why you lost 2-1. That's it right there. Maybe that's why you lost 2-1. School board District 7, Lori Coley beat out Dina McChark. I can't remember how to pronounce her name. She was on the program. Super nice lady. But she was beat out. That race was a little closer, 1,000 votes to almost 700 votes. So that was a little bit closer. So we'll see what continues to happen with the MatSu school district, because the school district there has been kind of the poster child for all the school districts in the state, right? This was the district that was supposed to be, oh, and I know somebody just said, Kevin just said, Alaska Gun Rights, really, quoting them. I know they are a troubling organization for sure. I'm not quoting them, but I mean, hell, that's the NRA these days, right? You can't even trust the NRA's endorsements. I'm not trusting anybody's endorsements at this point. So why would I trust them? But you're right, Kevin. I know they've given you an unfair shake on some things as well, but it is an interesting barometer to see where things are at. All right. And so now we get down into the propositions. How much time we got here? We got a couple minutes. And I thought this was an interesting take. First and foremost, the Alaska News Source has had some story headlines, and one of them is MatSu voters are split over the 7 cents a gallon fuel tax proposition. Now that was before the polls. That was before the polls closed, because when the polls did close, it became very apparent that they weren't that split over the motor fuels tax. We'll talk about that in a second, but they were definitely not split on proposition number 1, prorated senior and disabled veteran residential property tax exemption, giving them a better property tax exemption in the borough. Now, remember our conversation yesterday with Chris Story, where he said every time we end up talking about this with somebody, the fair tax, that is, people are like, it doesn't go far enough. We need to eliminate property taxes because they're evil. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he's not wrong. Prorated senior and disabled veteran residential property tax exemption, almost 10,000 votes to 1,500. I mean, it was like crushingly yes. You know what? I really want them to put an advisory vote on the ballot, or a vote on the ballot to just eliminate property taxes, just to see what happens. Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, when you see this, it was a 9-1 vote. 9-1 to vote to give seniors and disabled vets a better property tax exemption. That pretty much tells you all you need to know about what would happen if we put a private property, a property tax thing. I mean, something's got to change, folks. Something has got to change. And then, of course, the big one was the advisory vote on the motor fuel tax. This was a non-binding vote. It was a proposed 7 cents per gallon tax, and it was intended to fund local roads and infrastructure projects. Although I don't know if they could dedicate the funds or not. Not that up on the borough code there, but they asked whether the borough should adopt a fuel tax for 1.5 years. It would have been a short-term thing, 1.5 years as a trial period to broaden the local tax base beyond the property owners. So this is kind of one of those conundrums. They vote 9-1 to give seniors and disabled vets a break. But when this is sold as a way to give property taxpayers a break, people aren't buying it. Because I think that they believe, like I believe, that any other tax will just be not instead of a property tax, but will be in part of and in addition to property tax. And we'll see where it goes from here. Anyway, advisory vote on the motor fuel excise tax going down in flames. Well over, it's 2.5-1, 8,012 votes against the motor vehicle fuel tax, 3,400 votes in favor of it. So about 2.5-1. And it is going down in flames. Interestingly enough, the proposed annexation of parcels in Meadow Lakes to one service area it passed, but not by much, only by about 65-70 votes. That's annexing one parcel. And then the other proposal to annex another parcel into the Meadow Lakes Road service area has 0 votes. Like nobody vote. I mean, there were registered voters in that area. There were 30 registered voters. There were 7 question ballots. And apparently there was 297 ballots total, but apparently not in that road. There was 0 votes on the proposed annexation for proposition number 4, according to these early voting results. But we'll see where it goes from here. Some crazy stuff. So those are your election results for the MatSu. And again, we're covering them because you guys can see kind of the direction that some of this stuff is going. And to me, it's fascinating to watch where these votes fall on certain issues, especially like on the property exemptions for the disabled vets and the seniors. It's on one side, but then when it's a sales pitch for a tax to offset the property taxes, we don't necessarily buy it. I'm down with that. All right, we got to go. We're going to be back with more Mike Shower and Bernadette Wilson up in hour 2. We'll be returning right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Let's do that right there. Okay. We're going to continue here. I love this. I love this. I love this headline. This is just caught my attention. This is from yesterday, day before. Anchorage business files suit against governor candidate's company and others alleging negligence. The lawsuit accuses Bernadette Wilson's company and 2 others of negligence contributing to a fire in March. And it goes on to say that apparently it's her fault. This is a James Brooks article from the Alaska Beacon. The lawsuit by second to none accuses all defendants of negligence that contributed to the fire and seeks a judgment worth $100,000. The building was destroyed. I mean, several factors aggravated the fact, including that the building sprinkler systems had been turned off. I mean, I don't know how this is Bernadette's fault or how it is her company's fault. The claim that the fire started in Denali Disposal's rented section of the building does not match the fire department's report, which states the officials were unable to determine the exact origin and cause of the fire, but that it originated inside the south half of the structure. Anyway, I mean, to me, it just seems like this is a clickbaity headline, right? This is a clickbaity headline that by putting the governor candidate's company on the headline, you're more likely to believe that somehow, politics is a dirty, dirty, dirty business, isn't it? All right. All right. Let me go back up here to see what's going on here. Yeah, Stephanie Nowers is on the MSB assembly. She is the one that put the gas tax to the voters. I was told that the assembly could have passed the gas tax without a vote of the people. We probably will be paying the 7 cents tax to the MSB assembly. They want this tax, but she was the one that put it to a vote of the people. All right, we'll see. Interesting. All right. Good news in the Quinnipiac area out there for Willie and company. The moose season is extended for some of the area. All right. GOA is going to start endorsing state candidates, stepping in where the NRA seems to have lost their way. That's a fantastic deal. Let's see. In the Fairbanks area, says Barbara, yesterday, a guy from the APF argued that the ERA reflected unrealized gains, which was not realized. The guy from the Alaska, is that the Alaska Policy Forum, argued that the earnings reserve account reflected unrealized gains, which were not realized. I fired back that his argument was lame because homeowners pay taxes on unrealized gains every year. Good for you, Barbara. Good for you. Melody says they cannot designate the money no more than the MSBSD can designate their monies. So again, it's all smoke and mirrors. Oh, we're going to take this money and we're going to spend it on X, which can't be guaranteed because you can't bind one assembly over to the other. That may happen this year, but next year they may spend it on studying the mating habits of the tsetse fly. I mean, who knows? Why should MatSu Borough pay for Anchorage people to use our roads? Cell phone data shows that more than 50% of those using Jonesville rec area come from Anchorage. So I guess we're all okay with using our property tax to fund roads that Anchorage and other people use. I agree. I mean, I'm just to agree with what's going on right now. The borough will enact the gas tax. They didn't see the voting. They didn't need the voting to pass, according to my district rep. Well, it's an advisory vote. So it has no sticking power, but it's an advisory vote. And so you vote against that at your own peril. It is an advisory vote. There's nothing binding about it. But when you've got I mean, come on, that's a significant, what was it? It was 2.5 to 1, right? You don't just jump in on that and do that. Yeah. Sprinkler shut off. That seems like a muni problem or a building owner problem. I don't know who's, to me, it seems like a building owner problem. I don't know how that is somebody else's problem. There we go. Permanent fund. permanent fund. Okay, here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay. Well, I mean, elections have consequences. Melody was sounding off in the chat room, and she makes the point. She says that the borough will enact the gas tax. They didn't need the voting to pass, according to my district rep. And she's not wrong. Because, again, this was an advisory vote. That's all it was. It has no binding effect on the assembly. But I would say that anybody that voted against that, at your own peril, if you decide after the borough residents go out and vote against. Now, I suppose they could argue, well, it was only an 11% voter turnout, so it's not really a true reflection of what the voters want because it was only so blah, blah. To which I would go, wow. So that means that anybody who is elected during this cycle is also not right. I mean, this is a slippery slope. It's a very dangerous thing to do. So again, I would go back to at your own peril. You could vote against, and this was not a close vote by any way, shape, or form. This is almost 2.5 to 1. No, we don't want a 7 cents per gallon fuel tax. Now, interestingly enough, it was again proposed for only to be there for 1.5 years as kind of a pilot program, but I don't think people were buying it. You know, that's the thing. This is the most fascinating vote in this whole election for the MatSu is the fact that by a 9 to 1 margin, people voted to give veterans and elderly people a bigger tax break on their home. But at the same time, they were only 2.5 times as vehemently opposed to supposedly a tax that was there to diversify the revenue stream. And was sold as a way that it would offset your property taxes. Because we know, and this is one reason why I have been so vehemently opposed to additional taxes in communities for years. Because we know, I remember, we were fighting the sales tax in Fairbanks for the 3rd or 4th or 6th time, whatever it was. And everybody was going around saying, this sales tax will be so great because then all the property taxpayers will have relief. And I would say only if there's some kind of cap on it. Because otherwise, historically, what we've seen in other communities, and we did the research. Merrick Pierce and I sat down and we looked at this and we did the research and we looked at other communities, including communities in places like Texas and Idaho, where they had the same sales pitch. Put a sales tax on and it will, and we'll use it to offset the property. Your property taxes will go down. And without some kind of cap, like a hard cap, like the tax cap, that specifically is built to keep that true, what happened was initially they'd put a sales tax in, and initially it would reduce the property taxes. But but Parkinson's principle, again, writ large, what would happen? They'd start to gain more and more, and they'd increase the property tax, and eventually they'd increase the sales tax, and then they would increase the property tax up to where it was before, and eventually it just was taking more money out of the community. So while people can look and vote 9 to 1 for a tax exemption for private property that they know is going to help, these sales pitches to people of we're going to diversify the tax base and do all this, they don't trust it. I think it's very clear that they don't trust it. And unless you as a citizen of the community want to put together some kind of tax cap or something that says, okay, we'll have a sales tax, but only if the property tax is, well, eliminated or capped at a certain amount that can't go over without a vote of the people, et cetera, unless there's some kind of mechanism to take the ability for the borough to tax your property further away from them. There's just no way it's going to happen. Because people know in their hearts that government spending expands to fill up and consume all available money. That's what's going on. And so you could see this vote. It's just fascinating. 9-1 in favor of issuing a tax break to the elderly and the veterans. What if that had been a vote for just eliminating residential property taxes, not commercial property? I understand that's part of doing business. It's a business expense, but as a private residential or, maybe recreational property owner, what do you get? What you need to be, what would happen if they put that on the ballot? Well, I think again, it would probably be 9-1. I think it would be a high vote on that. And then I guess you could talk about sales tax all you want, because you'd have to do it to be able to offset the loss of revenue from your property taxes. But man, we've got to be able to own something. Own it outright, not beg the government. I mean, DeSantis was right in Florida, You'll never own anything. You'll rent it from the government till the day you die. And then your kids will pay even more on top of it. Does that sound like the American dream to you? It doesn't to me. 100%. All right, we're going to continue here. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll continue. Mike Shower, Bernadette Wilson up next. The Michael Duke Show. All right, well, Corey asks a valid question here. Corey says, while declaring we need to become a less dependency state and wanting less money taken out of our pockets, how does everyone propose we pay for existing services, maintenance, and development? I hate taxes too, so don't think I support them, but where does the money come from? Well, that's the hard conversation we're going to have, Corey. There will have to be some form of, there's two ways to do it. You can cut back, because the existing services that you're talking about, do we need all of those existing services? I mean, shouldn't that be a conversation that we're having right now? Do we need these existing services? Maintenance and development? Okay, great. Maintenance for sure. Development, why? I mean, if we're having a hard time maintaining what we have right now, why should we be developing more, right? So those are my questions there. Can we cut is the first question, because there's only two ways to do this. You've got to cut or you've got to raise more revenues. If we become a less dependency state, then maybe some of those services will be, closed down and extinguished, and we won't need to pay for that anymore. But the bottom line is that we're going to have to pay for it one way or the other. Right now, we're paying through a stealth tax of the taking of the PFD. But what happens when the PFD is gone? What happens then? Well, then you get more taxes. That's what happens. You get more taxes. All right. I'm just going to go over here and verify the, Wrong window. Let me get. I'm just verifying the thing with the campaign manager to make sure that we're all on board for this morning, and we're ready to go. I see that Mike Shower is calling in instead of what you're not going to do the fancy video thing. You're just going to call in. Is that how you work these days?
That's what but I've been doing that for years.
I know, but I mean,
that video thing.
Corey asked for the video link, and so I sent it to her, and I thought, oh, Mike's going to be on this morning in the video. He realizes he's going to have to be up and put a shirt on and do all that kind of stuff. But no, he's calling it. How you doing, my friend? How's life as a free man? Well, I mean, free man as far as that goes. How you doing?
More free.
Free.
Good. Free. I am doing good. On Tuesday, I had the last, I guess, what is it? Yesterday. For the first time, my phone didn't ring all these different things, and I called like 3 or 4. They didn't pick up. And I'm like, what's happening already?
What?
People leave you alone.
Yeah, they leave you alone. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Pretty amazing.
And all of a sudden, you're not important. I'm like, well, this doesn't exactly. But I was kind of laughing because Scott Hogan said, it was like, hey, once you're no longer a citizen, just leave you alone. And a few other people. It's kind of true.
Yeah, maybe that's some good stuff. Hold on a second here, Mike. You're cutting out, and I don't know if it's my phone or your phone. So I'm going to ring you since we're in the break. I'm going to ring you back. So don't. I'm going to hang up on you, and then I didn't even give him a chance to respond. That's the kind of guy I am. Let me go back over here, and I'll call him back again and see if I can get this back on. And we'll try this again. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, this damn thing didn't pick up. Let me try it again. I'll try it again. Hold on. You have the link. Just, you know what you should do? We just do what we did last time. Just call into the link and there's just no video, okay? All right, thanks. That was easier anyway. It's better quality connection. So we'll try that here in a second. Okay. We're going to, all right, we're going to talk about, we're going to have all kinds of questions here as we get through. Yeah. Dozer is breaking up. That was part of my problem there, is it just wasn't sounding very good. All right. They are still taking my money as not true tax. Do you feel better now? Randy said, Jesus, Randy, it's a tax. Okay. It has the effect of a tax. I'm going to take the word of the ICER economist, the professor who says it is in essence a tax. I'm going to take that guy's word over yours as to whether or not it's a tax. Sorry, Randy. I know that was going to trigger you when I said that, but that is the truth. It's a thing. So, yeah, let me see. Let me fix this here. There we go. Like there. Mike Shower is with us. Can you hear me now?
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Oh man, you sound so much better. Jeez.
That is wild. Huh.
Yeah, we just need to do this from now on. No more phone calls. And that's, I think, more my fault than your fault. This thing is having a hard time with the Bluetooth. I don't know what's going on. Anyway. So you ready to dive into this?
Yeah, let's go.
You know, I'm excited to talk about this. I will say, if I can lodge a slight complaint, you know that I like the long form, especially with you, because I can hardly get a word in edgewise sometimes. And I you know, I want both of you. I mean, I want both, you know, it'd be great to have you both on together, but also a half an hour is just like a tease, right? It's just a tease when it comes down to it. So tell CJ I said that, and we'll get you going on. All right. Anyway, I'm going to put you back. I'm going to put you back on hold. Don't go anywhere.
Not leaving.
Yeah, I'm not leaving you. We're going to do this. We're going to jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That's just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Hi there, ho there, hey there. Welcome back to the program. It's Wednesday, and normally I got a lot of fa-fa here that I talk about at the beginning of the hour, but since I only have a half hour with each one of these guests, we're going to jump right into it. This hour of the program, we're going to start off with Lieutenant Gubernatorial candidate Mike Shower, now former Senator Mike Shower. And in the second half of the hour, we're going to pick it up with Bernadette Wilson, candidate for governor. They're on the LT governor and LT governor ticket together, and we're going to jump into it right now. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I am doing fine. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I expected you to shout freedom from the top of your lungs
Freedom!
when it was a surprise for most folks that you were, that all of a sudden on Monday you make this announcement. As of 5 p.m., I'm done. I'm going full time as a lieutenant governor candidate. And boy, I think some people are a little worried, but others are excited. So tell me about that decision to pull the ripcord and jump out and do this full time.
Well, a couple things. First of all, Michelle and I had talked about this last fall. We had discussed whether or not we wanted to continue to serve in the Senate after our term was up, because that would be, almost 9 years. And our general answer was no. And putting it bluntly, the reality was, Michael, is I thought, well, I'm going to continue to get shoved into a minority. There's always the chance ranked choice voting is repealed, but it's not for sure. If ranked choice voting continues to exist, I run for a third term, very good and well what's going to happen. Certain Republicans are going to join with the Democrats, and I'm just going to be shoved in a minority. I did not feel like that's fair to the district and the people that I represent, because instead of being in a Republican majority, because there are more Republicans in both bodies than Democrats, there should be a Republican majority. You start to wonder, are you banging your head against the wall? Because I should have chairmanships and be in leadership by this point and be able to make a difference and have a stronger voice and be able to get bills through. But that wasn't going to happen. It's not happened for the last 3 years, and it's not going to happen into the future without knowing what's going to happen. So that was part of the process. And Michelle and I had also discussed, well, if we decided that we could do anything else, if we had any interest at all, because you get asked over the years, you should run for the U.S. Senate, you should run for governor, and no, not really feeling like it's the right time. And plus I still flying for FedEx. There's just all those things, right? You're like, not really felt like the time. We just didn't. But if somebody asked us to do the lieutenant governor, well, then maybe we would, because that's elections, which is the thing I'm most passionate about, because there's a lot of things that can be changed. And it's a job where I'm not stuck in Juneau 4 months out of every year. That's rather appealing. And so you kind of combined all those things together, and we'd made a decision that felt like it was probably time to move on one way or the other. And we weren't going to pursue it. If somebody asked us, we would consider it, but we weren't going to go out and actively ask people or tell everybody, hey, we'll run for lieutenant governor, because you never know how that's going to go. So we didn't. We just made our minds up quietly, and we were going to move on and finish out the term. And then, of course, in steps Bernadette and ask us in late January or so. We get, a phone call. Hey, we'd like to talk, and didn't know what the topic was. And so we had a chance to meet with her. We did. She gave us the pitch. Michelle and I looked at each other, and I'm kind of rolling my eyes like, are you kidding me? Seriously? We tell nobody. We say the one thing that we would do. And of course, what's like a month later, somebody comes in and says, hey, we'd like you to do that one thing. I'm like, come on. It's like you look at God, and what's always the things that never tell God you have a plan, he's going to laugh. So,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I looked at her, we talked about it, a lot of debate and questions back and forth, and finally felt like, this was the right thing for us to do, to move in that direction. And the reason that I'm going early, Michael, is a couple, because I know people are asking, well, why don't you finish it out? Even talk to the team, the Bernadette team, if you will, on what was the right answer. And there's always some people say you should, some you shouldn't. But here's what I think, Michael, and the reason I did it. Number one, I feel like if I'm going to join that ticket and I'm going to commit full time and go full throttle into this and try to get there, then being stuck in Juneau for 4 months where I cannot do really anything, campaigning and fundraising is, well, then why am I there? Right. That's one thing. The second thing is there's as being a former elected official, there's some ethical lines there that can be easy to cross and get yourself in trouble. Well, that's not going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So I figured if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it full time. You know how I work. I don't work at, idle. I work at full throttle. So I want to get on the team and let's go and make this happen. That's one. Two is, instead of leaving an open seat, if I'm going to do that, then I felt the best thing was to get out early enough so that we could have somebody appointed into the seat, get them established, stabilized, let the Senate minority rebalance, because I was the minority leader. So you need to elect a new person as the minority leader inside of that minority and kind of get themselves ready to go. So in January, there's not just an empty seat on the floor. There's somebody that's geared up and ready to go, assuming it'd probably be somebody, one of the House reps or somebody with some experience. So that was the second reason why I felt I needed to do it sooner rather than later. But the overall reason why I felt I needed to do it, period, to move on to the next phase. I mean, it just makes sense to me to do that. So there's your decision process. That's why we decided to move on and get out early and clear the way for somebody else.
Mechanically, what happens here? Because now that you're out of the seat is officially vacant. Walk people through real quick, because you obviously know what's going to have to happen here. How do you get replaced? Who is your replacement or potential replacements? I mean, what happens here?
So, geez, let's think back to when I got appointed the first time I first introduced you, huh? You're all that trouble causer back in the day.
Rabble rouser.
Rabble rouser.
I think I got you in trouble that first day. That was me. I'm only here to help.
That's right. Here to help. So it's the bottom line is this: the person in that seat resigns, House or Senate. It triggers a couple things happening. Number one, the districts, and this is the way the law is written, so that the seat was owned by one of the parties. Let's say it could be an independent, but generally it could be a Republican or a Democrat. Then the Republicans or Democrats get to fill that seat. That's how it's written. And that's only fair, right? I mean, you shouldn't have a Democrat replacing somebody, that the Republicans won that seat. So that's the way that's first step. The districts then, that is, in this case, would be House District 29 and 30. For Senate District O, get to come together, have a meeting. They allow people to put in applications for who might want to, fill that seat or get appointed into the seat. They have a meeting. They generally, they do their thing. They vet them. And in that meeting, they'll put those names in the hat, just like I was in there in 2018, and they'll vote. And the top three people to get votes will be their nominees. They will send those names to the governor. And I do believe, by the way, there's a 14-day limit. So they're moving on this pretty quick. From the time the resignation is announced, they have 14 days, I believe, to get the names. And then they send those names to the governor. The governor then has 30 days to do his thing, interview, whatever he wants to do to assume. But in this case, he might know the House member, so maybe it goes fast. And then the governor makes an appointment. Once he makes an appointment, all this is pretty straightforward right now. This is where it gets a little trickier, because then that nominee, that appointee, if you will, has to be confirmed by the Senate. Now, in the past, that's been straightforward. House or Senate generally have enough people in one caucus, they get together, right? And you make it happen. And as long as the majority of the members of that party or group caucus, because the statute does say two things as far as how it can be filled, then they vote on that person, and generally they're nominated. Now, that is interesting today, because why? Because normally in the past, we've always had the Republicans and Democrats, with one or two exceptions, like Lyman Hoffman, that always kind of switches sides, always has. You generally have, like said, let's say 11 Republicans. We have 11 Republicans right now. We should be together and a majority, right? And so then you would have at least the Republicans together, and they would vote. And you could see like what happened if you remember this. We talked about when Laddie Shaw was nominated by the governor to appoint Chris Birch when Chris Birch passed away. Well, we were a Republican caucus. All of us were together. And there was 11 of us, I think, or 12. I forget the exact number at the time. Might have been 12. And we took a vote. It was a secret vote. They say, oh, can't have a secret vote. It was a secret vote. We wrote our name on a piece of paper, handed it to somebody, and one person got to count them. One person got to verify the count. And that was it. We weren't allowed to see what it was. Kathy Giesel was president. I believe it was Giesel and Coghill that counted, maybe, or one other person. I can't remember exactly, but I know Coghill definitely counted. And they announced the answer. And if that person's confirmed, they're done. At the time, we didn't confirm Laddie Shaw because he gave the answer that some of them didn't like about the PFD following the law. And Revac came in, and Revac basically, from what I remember, kind of said, well, whatever, I'll vote however you want me to, kind of a thing. And so I think he won some votes. And so then he gets confirmed and he's in the seat. So that's kind of the process, how it works out.
Right.
That's what it is. But this one is different, my friend, because all of a sudden now we've got 11 Republicans, but 5 of them are joined in the majority coalition Democrats. So my question becomes, this doesn't seem right to me when you look at it, to allow them to come vote on one of the most conservative seats, if not the most conservative seat in the state. And you're going to allow 5 Republicans that voted with the Democrats to come vote on a Republican. I don't know, Michael. It's a little weird in this one. And without me there, that could put us at a 5-5 split. And then what happens, right? So it's a weird time. That's the process. That's just me. What I'm talking about now is just the politics of it. But that's the process I described as how it works. There you go.
It's fascinating, and I'm thinking of the names that could circle around through there that are potential. Of course, the House seats could be Kevin McCabe or George Rauscher from 29 or 30. There could be other names. Your former opponent could throw their name in the hat. Anybody could throw their name in the hat. And so this is going to be up to the districts to provide good candidates. Then the governor's got to pick a good candidate, but leaving it up in the hands of this split Senate, oh man, what a poop parade. I can't even imagine. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break because I got to take a break because you're gone at the bottom of the hour. So I hate this. All right. We're going to be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. More coming up. State Senator Mike Shower, our guest. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Your mental suppository. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. If Mike Shower was king for a day, who would you appoint in your seat? I'm just curious if you want to answer that.
I have been asked that question a few times, Michael, and here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to defer again because what I've told people, kind of like being a military commander, when your time is up, you get out and you leave. What the new commander coming in doesn't want is some old commander poking around the squadron, messing with business, because it's their term was up, they're gone, right? And you can have a lot of influence on that, but you can also kind of be sticking your fingers in the pie that you're leaving. So I'm treating it that way. I'm like, you know what? I had my time. I did my service, 24 years in the military, 8+ years in the Senate. And I'm moving on to something else. I'm not going to sit around. I'm not going to, try to, influence the process or, get into what the governor should and shouldn't do. That's his call. So it's the same in the districts, right? I mean, so I'm deferring that, not because I'm being coy. I certainly have people that I would prefer, and there are some I don't want to see in that seat because I think it's a very important seat, but I don't feel right tainting the well or, talking about names over others. And so I'm kind of deferring for that. Not like I said, not to be coy, but because I really feel like it's the right thing. Some people, I call them strap hangers. It's the old guys in the fighter squadrons, right? They could never give it up. And even when they're retired, they're hanging around the bar every Friday night telling old stories. And you start rolling your eyes after a while. I'm like, you know what? It's time to move on and go to the next thing. And the districts and the next person, they'll figure it out. That's their job. That's just the way it is. I mean, you served. And then you had to let it go. And now you're on the radio, right? So I served my time and it's time for the next phase. So longer answer to that short question, but I just think it's important for people to understand that I'm really trying to not beg off on the question. I just think it's not appropriate. I think I should move on and let them do what they have to do.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let you. Unsatisfying, but also understood.
I know.
I understand.
But you've been there.
But you are right. I mean, this is like probably the most conservative seat in the district or in the state. I mean, and if they try and force some kind of moderate or mealy mouth go along to get along guy in there, oh man, I don't even know at this point. All right.
I will tell you this, Michael, if somebody usurps this process or they try to go against the will of the people, and put somebody in that shouldn't, or the Senate plays games, certain people down there, I will probably not be quiet about that because that's not appropriate. You are usurping the will of the people that elected the guy with the most conservative record at this point in the legislature from the most conservative, or one of, if not one of two, most conservative districts in the state. And then to put somebody in, like you said, that doesn't fit that role because somehow they usurp that process until they get somebody they want, maybe somebody that's going to vote with them on defined benefits, or you name the thing, right? Then that's not appropriate, because you are literally becoming for lack of a better term, even though it's not exactly right, a dictatorship, because you're telling the people who's going to represent them as opposed to the will, right? So that is where I will probably speak up if that happens. I'm hoping everybody's going to follow the process, do the right thing, honor the will of the people from the district, and we move on. But we'll see. I have my questions. I have my doubts, but we'll see.
We have questions for you. We have lots of questions. Anyway, okay. Yeah. Ruben says, yep, I smell a rhino filling the seat. Only hope is for the districts to send a solid conservative. And I hope they're right. I absolutely hope they're right. All right. We're about a minute out right now. Mike, I want to get a little bit more into the finances.
You made a word up.
Wow, man, it's just a day. I want to get into the kind of the financial state of the state and where you're going. And of course, your big thing, of course, is elections as lieutenant governor. That's your purview. You hold the state seal and you govern elections. That's pretty much what your job is. And I'm hoping that there's more to it, because that would be a waste of your tools and talent. But we'll dive into that here in just a second, folks. Please like and share the show, like and follow the show page. If you haven't done so with your friends and relatives, tell people to get involved. I mean, tell people to come out here and watch what's happening, and let's get more folks into the conversation. I need your help doing that, though. I can't do it alone. Let's get to it. Just do it right now. Like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. All right, here we go. We're jumping back into it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, we're continuing now. Mike Shower is our guest, candidate for lieutenant governor, former state senator. That must feel good for Mike to hear. Former state senator. The pain is over. I mean, there's more pain in a different way, but we're going to do it. Let's talk a little bit about Mike's position as lieutenant governor. Now, I do want to talk. I know you and I have talked a lot about finances over the years, because as a senator, that was one of the big things, big topics, and that's going to be a painful subject, for whoever the governor is moving forward. I mean, this is going to be the number one issue, because we are in dire straits. And so you can comment on that. But I know that one of your passions, of course, is elections, election integrity, election security, cleaning the voter rolls, all those different kind of things. And as lieutenant governor, I mean, the lieutenant governor really has two jobs. One is to hold the state seal, and the other one is to oversee and run the election. So this seems like a perfect match for you.
Certainly, Michael. On the lieutenant governor side for elections, that was one of the enticing things. Like, why did I join Bernadette in the ticket, right? And it's one of the questions I asked, what are the expectations? And, without question, she was right on board and understood that the lieutenant governor's role in elections fit my background in the legislature. And one of the things I worked hardest on was to get election reform that I believe is needed. And so we discussed that. And, her answer was pretty simple. It's like, hey, Mike, if there's a problem there, fix it. Just get it done. And so I was kind of, feeling it out and going, okay, am I going to be restricted? Am I expected to live in the shadows? And I don't get that sense from Bernadette at all, Mike. It was like, she wants me active and involved. And certainly when it comes to elections, I mean, it wasn't even a question. It was like, go get it done, what you need to do. And I will say, we talked about many other things. You made a comment as we got off the break there about, I hope that you're used them more than just that. And I can promise you I will be. We were very clear on that in our discussions, that there are a host of things that she is looking at that I would be working on. However, that's for another day, because we don't have time, honestly, to talk about this point. But trust me, brother, I will not be doing just elections and then, sitting on the third floor office. So you can expect to see me doing a number of things. and different projects and bringing things to the table. So that's going to be one of them. I know you talked, about the state seal. There's other things there that are involved. But remember, that's the thing, Michael. You can have a very active lieutenant governor, depending on the governor's personality, or you can have one that stays in the shadows. And so I'm not one that's going to stay in the shadows from the sense of being available. I kind of like how JD Vance has been playing it. Trump's the president, but you see JD Vance out there talking in speeches. You see him going and doing things. You see him advocating for policy. You see him sitting down with other leaders, world leaders even. And I would imagine, based on Bernadette's personality, what she expects is I'm going to be doing things like that, not just, working on some election stuff and that's it, as like a placeholder. That's not me. And she doesn't expect that. So that is a very encouraging thing to me. And one of the decision points that Michelle and I, as we were going through it, decided that, yeah, we can do this. And we like the ticket because, Bernadette is private sector experience. I bring a lot of military and now even legislative experience on the government side. Bernadette has a really strong vision and a strong personality. Well, so do I. But we're aligned on where does the state need to go financially? Follow the law. Things like the PFD. If you don't like the PFD, I've been saying this on this program for how many years? All right, guys, legislature, if you don't think the math works, then change the law, but don't break it, because that's not sending the right message to the people. 100% aligned. Bernadette says it all the time. Yeah. There's a lot of really core alignment, Michael, on the values that is encouraging to me to see somebody that's coming from not inside government, because almost everybody else out there has been in government that's on a ticket, right? Almost every. There might be like one, I think, besides Bernadette. And I think it's good to have a balanced ticket, right? It's okay to have some experience. Well, I'm going to bring some of that experience, but I bring military. I bring some private sector right out there. I bring the governmental side of things, the geopolitics to it. Bernadette brings the passion, the activism, connections. She brings the private sector side of this thing. And frankly, with a lot of the questions I have, where sometimes you see people with a deer in the headlight look, and I've asked Bernadette about a question, she comes right back with an answer. I rarely have had a conversation with her where she hadn't thought of the question already and was looking at solutions, and very, very quick on her feet. So for all those reasons, but there's a lot, to that. If you have a lieutenant governor that's going to be active and a governor that's going to actually use that experience and skill set, not just bring them there for the campaign.
Well, and I think that's a brilliant answer, and I think the JD Vance example is a good example. I mean, there are lieutenant governors or vice presidents who've been in the shadows for the whole time, and you basically didn't hear from them. And I just don't see that being your job. I could definitely see you being down on the in the halls of the legislature, asking questions and pushing and pushing policies and agendas and being very proactive on that. And I'm hopeful that is the way. Also, your experience, not just as a legislator, but for specifically, we were talking about the fiscal issues. I mean, you were part of the fiscal policy working group, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
there's some answers there. You've worked that problem. You've worked the problem. I would hope that she's coming to you and picking your brain on that and looking at that, because I know that before we had talked about the fiscal policy working group plan, and you had said that she is, she's looked at it and she looks at it favorably. Can it be used? I mean, I'm hoping that you are going to use that experience to help, advise and help drive the administration in that way.
I think, the answer to all that short answer is yes, because we only have like a minute left, I know. But I will say one last thing that I think is important, Michael. What I see as well out of Bernadette, and one of the things I sensed, again, also important in my decision matrix of whether I want to join the team, was that it is crystal clear to me that she recognizes the opportunity we have with the Trump administration. We have the most incredible opportunity in front of us, that with the most pro-Alaska president we may have ever seen. And she is 100% cognizant of that fact and working it hard to make sure that we are aligned with Trump, to be able to talk to them and work with his different, like Department of Interior, Department of Transportation, to bring them on board to do these projects, because we have so much going on. We're TAPS times 4, like the 1970s, if we get on it and don't blow this opportunity. And she knows that. And you and I know it because we talk about it all the time. That's our future. There's so much at stake. And she's 100% recognizes that and wants to move on it. So that as well is very important, because if we squander this, brother, you and I both know it's going to be real tough in Alaska if we don't move on these things. And the window is short. Once Trump's gone, who's next? I don't know. It could be another Democrat in case we get shut down again. So that's my final thing on this one, as I know we're running out of time. So.
Yeah, running out of time. Psst, your boss is here, so we gotta go. All right. Well, Mike Shower, candidate for lieutenant governor, now former state senator. Thank you so much for coming on board this morning and sharing with us. We appreciate it, and we look forward to some longer conversations here in the future. Appreciate you being part of it.
We'll talk again, brother. It's good to see you. Have fun with Bernadette. You guys have a good morning.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate it. It's good to talk with you as well. Mike Shower, our guest. That brings us over to Bernadette Wilson, who she was on camera here a second ago, and now the camera's gone. But there she is. I just want to make sure we're all good. Bernadette Wilson, our guest this morning, as we get ready to go, candidate for governor. We just got through talking to her lieutenant gubernatorial candidate, and we're ready to go. Good morning, Bernadette. How are you?
Good morning. It's good to be with you today. He's great, isn't he?
Man, he's a house of fire. You should have, I'm so glad you brought him on board. I'm excited to see what he can do as a lieutenant governor candidate. Been a hot minute, Bernadette. Lots of stuff going on. Give us a quick update on everything that's happened since the last time we talked, I guess, and tell us where you're at in the campaign. I mean, things seem to be going pretty well. Your name appears to be on most people's lips when I talk about the governor's race. Let's see where you think you're at.
Yeah, we've been out all over Alaska just having very candid conversations with people. And, I think since we last talked, we've been up in Fairbanks with the gubernatorial forum that happened up there. We had a pumpkin pie for breakfast on a Saturday morning here in Anchorage. So we've been crisscrossing the state all over, engaging a lot with people on social media, engaging with them at different events that we've had, whether it's a meet and greet, whether it's a fundraiser, whether it's the forums. Yesterday, I was over at the Alaska Miners Association, had their conference going on at Denina Center. So we were over there yesterday. And of course, we've announced Senator Mike Shower as our running mate, as lieutenant governor. Very excited about that. We've come out since we last spoke and talked a lot about ranked choice voting this campaign. We've made our commitment that if we are not the top vote getter in the Republican primary in August, that we will be stepping down and supporting whomever it is the electorate chooses. We've been out at a lot of different district meetings. It has been busy, but obviously the big news with the announcement of the lieutenant governor was Senator Mike Shower. And I am especially excited about that because, I have watched different administrations and different lieutenant governors come through Alaska. Honestly, I think about as far back as I can look, or I remember anyhow. And they have all been purely political elections. And what I mean by that is, we've had this cast of people who've wanted to run for governor. And traditionally, we've looked at the cast of people running for governor, and they would sit there and they would lobby with each other. We'll all run for governor. You run for lieutenant governor. That will set you up nicely. So now you can run for Congress. It'll set you up nicely. So now you'll be the heir apparent to the throne for governor. And we've seen all kinds of, machinations going on and political strategy going on. But the big piece that's been missing from that conversation, in my opinion, is that we haven't really spent the time to talk to that particular candidate and say, but how interested are you in division of elections? How much are you really going to clean this position up? And in Alaska, when you're lieutenant governor, they have two jobs, right? Protect the state seal, oversee division of elections. And I'm sorry, but in a state where you have, you go back to 2024, the primary, you had villages, Kaktovik and Wales, Alaska, never even open for in-person voting. There were ballots not long thereafter that were left on the side of the road. Here in Anchorage over by Ted Stevens International Airport, you can go back to 2022. You had 6 native villages that didn't get to vote. We've waited weeks to get elections. We have watched as the federal government has come in and said, hey, we've got a handful of states. We want to see your voter rolls. We have voter rolls that are inflated at 106. Some will tell you up to 110%. And no one appears to have a desire in past administrations to really dive in and look at this. And so what really excites me is for anyone who knows Senator Mike Shower, They know he is incredibly passionate about election integrity. This is an issue that he spent a lot of time diving into and studying. There's a lot that the lieutenant governor can do to help get this train back on track. And I think that that is something that makes this particular ticket very unique. Mike had zero desire to run for governor. He'll tell you that. He knew that he had an interest in this area. So I'm very excited about that.
Let's continue on with that for just a minute. We're going to take the break early here, but I since he was just on, we were just talking with him about what kind of lieutenant governor he's going to be or wants to be. What you just said about his passion for the election rolls and everything else. What kind of, I mean, are you looking for somebody who's going to just focus on that, be their area? Are you looking for a sergeant at arms who can go out there and twist arms a little bit and knows how it works? You're looking for a partner who can go out there and be your blocking tackle for the policies that you want to do. Is that what kind of lieutenant governor are you looking for Mike to be?
Absolutely. All of the above. I will say this, one of the things that I looked at was not just who has a passion for doing this and who understands the importance of this, but also who do you know is going to stand strong? I am not naive to the fact that this is going to be a very difficult administration, especially if we get to accomplish half of the things we want to do. We are going to be in there to do battle. I approach this next administration knowing very well it could absolutely be a 4-year term. And that was something that I asked Mike. I said, you know what? It may only be 1 term. Are you okay with that? Because we have to be okay with that. I'm tired of watching people run for governor and say, well, that issue is a 2nd term issue because I can't win re-election if I tackle that right now. Right. And so I had that conversation with him. Are you okay with 1 term? Will you stand up next to me? And the thing is, I've watched him over the years. I have no doubt that he is going to stand strong right alongside me and say, come on, let's go. We're not going to back down. We're going to move quickly. He shares the sentiment that we're tired of hearing all of the excuses as to why something can't be done, right? This can't be done and the state's too far gone here. You know what? What do they say? For everyone who say it can't be done, get out of the way for those who will get it done. And he shares that. And I have no doubt that he will be that person.
If you go in there doing battle, you might be lucky to get a full term, right? Based on some of the reactions that we've had in the past. But you know what? Somebody's got to go in and be the adult in the room. That's the bottom line. Somebody has got to be the adult and say, we can't keep doing things the way we're doing them. Bernadette Wilson's our guest candidate for governor. We're going to continue with her here in just a second. Taking the break just a bit early because, well, we don't have much time with Bernadette. So we're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based. Free Thinking Radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Gravy for the brain.
Okay, we are in the break with Bernadette Wilson and sorry, it's I have to fix something real quick. Bernadette, so this whole thing has been so exciting, and I see a lot of people who are really excited about your candidacy. What's the reaction been on the trail? Is there a lot of positivity? Is there a lot of questions? Because I know some of this stuff is pie in the sky. People are talking about, I want a full PIP, but how do we pay for it? I mean, there's a lot of questions out there locally on that. What's the reaction been from the folks on the ground, so to speak?
There has been a lot of excitement and a lot of people engaging at a level that, I'll be honest with you, I've not seen before. I mentioned that we had this event. We did a pumpkin pie. It was a Saturday morning event. It was about 9:30 in the morning. And I was surprised. We had more than 60 people show up, 60 plus people that we counted in the room at one time. And as I looked across the room, this is not a joke. There were probably 25 or 30 people in that room that I did not know. And my mom came up to me at one point and she said, man, Bernadette, is it just me or is there a lot of people in this room? I don't know a lot of these people. Right. We're seeing a lot of new faces, people coming forward and saying, you know what, I don't typically vote in our local elections because I think that Republican and Democrat all down the ticket, they're all the same. They're all in the back pocket of somebody, some special interest group, and I don't vote. We were at the Alaska Outdoor Council banquet. It was a great event. And I had a gentleman come up to me and he said to me, Bernadette, I've only donated to one political campaign in my entire life. It was President Donald Trump. But I donated to you. You're my second one. And so what we're seeing is kind of this groundswell of when we talk about why are people not getting out? Why are they not engaging? What we're really seeing in this campaign is those people are really starting to rise to the top. They're finding us at events. They're finding me out in the middle of Costco, and they're sharing their excitement, and they're wanting to talk about the small business that they own, and they're wanting to talk about the project that their employer is working on, and they're wanting to talk about their kids are about to graduate. And man, I'm hoping we can turn this thing around and my kids are going to come back. And so there is this excitement from people that it's not the people that you're used to seeing, which is really encouraging. I mean, it's always awesome to know that you've got that group of people that are consistently showing up. They're going to be there for you. I love seeing those people at events. When you have the group of kind of, strongholds that now gets balanced out with new faces, it really feels like we're going in a solid direction. And I think generally the reception is a lot of excitement and people coming to me and saying, you said the quiet part out loud. I mean, that's what I was thinking. And nobody would say it. And I wasn't going to say it. But now that you've said it, I mean, it makes sense, And so I think that we're seeing all of that, across the field, no matter the area of the state that we go, no matter the event that we go. So that's really encouraging.
Yeah, no, and I think that one of the things that you've touched on there is that, again, a lot of people, you're seeing things out loud that no other elected candidate has said. It's one of the things that, quite honestly, many people were drawn to President Trump on, because he was a strong speaker and he spoke some truths, not always in the best way, not always in the most polite way, but he did get people's attention. And like you said, all these other candidates were, political creatures who were, how do I get to the next level? How do I get to the governor, the lieutenant governor to become the governor? Or maybe I jump to the Senate, or, or the Congress, or, and what we need is somebody who's like, we've got to fix this problem and get it done. And you've espoused that ideal that, I'm going to go in and get it done. Even if I'm one term or less, I'm going to do whatever I can do to fix the problem and then get in and get out. Because I got other things to do with my life, right? And I think that's refreshing to people. And I'm hoping that it will draw more of those middle of the road people who are frustrated with the business as usual politics to join in and to support you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's fun. I've had the conversation with my kids. I said, all right, you guys, you think you can run the garbage company for a few years? Because I'll be back to garbage not long. So you guys are going to have to step up and help while I step away for a few years. So I know what I'm going back to. And I think that also makes this ticket very unique, is I know where I'm going to land. I'm not worried about where my next job is at, right? I'm going back to trash, maybe go back to dirt where my mom and dad have their company. And so it's very freeing. And I think that people are seeing that and people are realizing that when you have that freedom to just call it like it is, because you haven't been shackled by the lobbyists or the special interests. You haven't been shackled by, I have all these friends in the legislature and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's very freeing to have those conversations and just kind of steer the ship and say, this is the direction that we're going, and jump on board.
Bernadette Wilson is our guest, candidate for governor. We're about to jump back in here onto the radio. Please like and share, like and follow, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the YouTube-y things, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get to it. Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yes, I'm a pain in the something. That's everybody knows that. It is known. All right, Bernadette Wilson is our guest, candidate for Alaska governor. We were just talking about all kinds of stuff during the break there, including the reaction from folks out there. It's pretty exciting to see. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty here, Bernadette, because one of the things that I've seen, and a lot of candidates have been doing, is they've been talking about, things like wanting a full PFD. And to me, that's almost the death knell of a campaign, because how do you get there from here? How do you pay for everything? It's the idea of, we've got a multi-billion-dollar deficit coming up in the next 10 years. It's $1 billion a year every year. How do we pay for that? Mike Schauer was on the fiscal policy working group. I know he was intimately involved with that, and I'm hoping that you're going to be picking his brain, because he said that he had said before that you'd looked at that and that there were some great things in there. Can you talk a little bit about the fiscal plan? Do you support the fiscal policy working group's plan to try and holistically solve the problems here that we have coming up in the state?
Well, there's a lot in that plan. So to say, do you support the plan? We need to sit there and look at the pieces. There's definitely some great pieces to that plan. Absolutely. I'll back up a little bit and tell you that I'm surprised. For you to tell me there's several people saying they should give out a full permanent fund. That surprises me. I have not heard that out on the campaign trail. What I have heard is a couple of candidates that have kind of adopted my point, which is, if the legislature can't follow the law, then they need to change the law. But breaking the law is not an option. And so I'm encouraged that there's other candidates, after we had spent months in this campaign, that have decided that they really like that idea that we've been leading on, and they have adopted that idea. And so anytime you're out leading on such a big issue like the permanent fund, and then you see other candidates kind of adopt that same thing after you've been at it for a few months, is encouraging. But that's the first thing. So I want to just set that straight. On that permanent fund, I don't think that legislators should be breaking the law at all. No. I think that at the heart of the permanent fund is a conversation about who knows better how to spend your money, the individual or government. That's what's at the heart of the conversation. And make no mistake, the money is there. And that's where I think I perhaps have disagreements with some. I have watched while legislators have said we cannot pay out a full permanent fund, but do you know how many of them were hoping for $1,000 plus BSA and $1,800 BSA?
Right.
Had they thought that they would get that amount of a BSA past the governor and past the minorities in the House and the Senate, that was what they were fully prepared to support. They did end up supporting a lower BSA, right? That ended up being supported by the governor, the minority House, the minority Senate, and of course, majorities in both bodies. So make no mistake, at the point that they can pass a BSA, I don't care if it's to the tune of $680 or higher. Let's just be very, very clear. The money is there. They've decided that they want to allocate it somewhere else.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, we need to have a conversation about who knows better how to allocate the dollars. So the first thing I want to point out is that. The other thing I'll point out is, not just on the BSA, it's easy to pick on that because it had a lot of attention, but we can talk about a return to defined benefit. We can talk about any number of spending packages that legislators absolutely love, and they'll tell you they support it. There are strong, avid, rabid Democrats in both bodies that will tell you we cannot afford a permanent fund. We have to have defined benefit. The Reason Foundation will tell you in their actuarial analysis that would cost the state billions of dollars. So I start with the very question of what exactly is the fiscal situation? Because we've watched legislators have all this spending that's going on. The reality is this: there's multiple things that we need to do, okay? So I would encourage everybody, let's not get hooked up on one or the other, and I hope you'll hear me out all the way, because if there's anything I've learned, it's that people will hear the first thing and not listen all the way through. The first thing is we need to audit state government. Any good business comes in and audits themselves, usually every couple years at least, to see where do we have waste, fraud, and abuse. We have not come in and audited the state of Alaska in the way that we should. The last time that I think the state tried to do it, we took the individual who helped with that particular project. She was fired. She's now CFO over at the Kennedy Center. And so the first thing we need to look at is, where is the waste, fraud, and abuse? And I'm sorry, but with the Democrats controlling the House and the Senate, if you are going to tell me that the budget that they supported is really and truly the budget that does not have waste, fraud, and abuse, I'm not buying it. I don't have that much trust in the leadership of the left. I'm sorry, I don't.
Right.
So we know that. We know that there's areas, for example, our university system that could most certainly be consolidated. So have we indeed come in and have we audited where our expenses are? Have we looked for the fat? We know that we have one of the highest rate of government employees, I think the highest per capita than any other state. So you've got the spending issue. We have unfilled positions. And people tell me, well, if you cut government, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt across the state. I want to know, someone tell me who is going to be hurt by the unfilled positions. I really would like to know. Okay.
No, the people in the department who are using it as slush funds, that's who's going to be hurt. That's,
right. Exactly.
The bureaucracy, right.
Right. So you have that component. The other component that you have is how we budget. Okay. And when we look at how we budget, I've said this before on this show, excuse me, we need to go to zero-based budgeting or take a 5-year rolling average. But right now we have departments that have a use it or lose it attitude. And so they're worried that if they don't go throw down the rock salt, or if they don't send out the graders on dry pavement, and all of us see sparks flying up, by the way, okay? I don't know how many times I see road graders out. But we're coming up on spring, and my gosh, if they don't use the rest of that snowplow budget, they're worried they're not going to get it the next year. That's just one example, but you have all of our departments are that way. I've had people come to me. So we need to change the way that we budget. That's another component of it. We need to get a legitimate spending cap in place. People will tell me, well, we have a spending cap. You don't have a legitimate spending cap. It's so darn high, they're not going to meet it. So we need to get a legitimate spending cap in place. I would argue that if we were to base our budget off of $68, maybe $70 a barrel of oil, we would be in a much better situation. Right now, you have legislators and they want to budget right up into the very tip top of what oil is going to be. And they want to wait as long as they can, because whatever high point oil hits per barrel, that's what they want to budget at. That's a flawed way to budget, in my opinion. We need to be budgeting at what we know, if we take the last 10, 15 years, is a more realistic price per barrel on oil, and use that. And guess what? If the price of oil does go up to $90 or $100+ a barrel, then we've got extra funds that we now can go use on these other projects. Right. So that's a component of it. We've talked about, you look at the way the permanent fund is structured right now. You know this as well as I do. When you look at how the permanent fund performs compared to, say, the S&P, for example, we've talked about the fact that Brad Keithley has some great information there. This permanent fund could be performing and producing a revenue for the state much better than it's being performed. We're treating the permanent fund as though it's lemonade stand investments and not the massive investment fund that it is. So we need to get the permanent fund better working for Alaska. That is a component of it. Another component of this, and I mean, we could sit here and go on all day, but I'm kind of going through these quickly. But another component of this is, I'm sorry, but when in the heck is the last time we built something in this state? And any good conservative who understands basic economics knows that you need to get your economy moving and things growing and thriving and developing, right? It's why when we look at how good our economies in states, they measure, how many number of cranes are operating, right? The cranes to build these buildings, how many are operating? And so we need to get building and we need to get developing. When is the last time we had a big project come online in this state that produced good paying jobs? We're all talking about 66,000 people on SNAP, and the governor, God bless him, says, hey, the state's going to step in and we're going to help. Why on the heck are we not having a conversation about why 66,000 people are on SNAP, why they cannot afford the incredible high cost of living in this state, and why on earth they can only find jobs that they can only work 20 hours a week, or they don't have the high paying job? I mean, we've got to get our economy rolling. And so all of those things are going to have to come together. You're not going to solve this with any one laser shot on, well, we're just going to do this.
Right. Well, and I think that was the beauty of the fiscal policy group, is that there was 8 or 9 things that all had to be pulled. All the levers had to be pulled in unison to make it all work. And I think everything you've lined out there is obviously a big component of it, and they all need to be pulled into a fiscal plan. One of the things that really struck me, somebody brought it up to me recently, is that, the permanent fund is the dividend. It's paid for. They keep saying we don't have the money for the fund. We got to find the money. So it's paid for. The money is paid for. What we have here is a prioritization problem. right? Instead of paying the PFD as per the statute and as per the law and as it was originally intended, we've stolen the money to spend on other things that we think are more important. And you're talking about building new things. And, when is the state? Well, that'd be great. We can build new things, but how about we maintain the things that we have? We've got $12 billion in deferred maintenance in this state. I mean, how are we supposed to trust that, and that's part of the problem. We've lost the trust with the government to where we feel like they can do an adequate job in most things. And that's part of the problem here.
Yes. And, we've seen this with one-time funding that's come through. COVID funds were a big issue, I think, where we saw this. One-time COVID funding came through. And here in Alaska, we want to use it for capital projects. And no one is stopping to think, okay, well, if you go take the COVID money and you go build 5 new schools, now where in your budget is going to be the long-term maintenance of this? And so we get all excited about these one-time funds, and no one is making the point of, wait a minute, these are one-time funds. You need to be paying very close attention to how you're using these and not getting yourself in a situation, because we have a lot of deferred maintenance, especially with our roads that's way backed up. So
roads, and $8 billion of it is the rural schools and things like that. I mean, things that we're supposed to be, taken care of. We're down to the last 90 seconds here or so, which is, I always want to have you on for a little bit longer, because these conversations these are not soundbite conversations. They require that deeper look. And I hope we do it. So, Bernadette, where can folks find out about you? What are you doing? Your next meet and greet, or where are you going? Give us a quick rundown here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would encourage everyone to check us out on social media. If you're on social media, Bernadette for Governor. I mean, we just, you mentioned this is not about sound bites. You can go to our social media pages. You can go to our YouTube channel. You will find videos on any number of issues under the sun. We have tackled more issues than I think every other campaign in this state combined. So you can find that on our social media, Facebook, Twitter. We're on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel that's up. I would encourage you to go to our website, BernadetteForGovernor.com. You can sign up there to get our newsletters, where we're sending out updates of where we've been and what's coming up, all those good things. And the 11th, on Veterans Day, we'll be out in Eagle River for an event. On the 18th, we'll be out in Kenai for the event. We've got an event coming up in Anchorage, so I'd encourage people to keep their eyes out for that. And it's all up on our pages, or if you sign up for our updates, you'll get it there via email.
All right, Bernadette Wilson, candidate for governor. BernadetteForGovernor.com is the website. You can go out there and find out all the details as well. We're going to have her back here sooner rather than later, to have all these discussions. We need to get deeper into some of this stuff, because there's a lot of good info there. Bernadette, thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you.
All right, hold just for a second here. Folks, we'll see you guys tomorrow. I was going to give Bernadette one more bite at the apple, Bernadette, if you got time. Otherwise, I'll let you go one way or the other.
I've got about 2 minutes till I have to jump on my next call.
Okay. Well, if there was anything else that we missed, or anything that you wanted to expound on, you got 2 minutes then. Go ahead. Give it to me.
Yeah, I would just encourage everybody to follow our pages. I mean, like I said, there is a lot of information that's up there. We're engaging with people. We're answering questions. Come to events. I always open it up. I take questions. I'll stay there as long as there's questions to be asked. And so that has been noted by several people of, oh man, you're literally like the last one to walk out of the building. And so I would definitely encourage people, go check all that out. We're spending a lot of time trying to get up, different videos on things and quick reactions to different things that are happening, everything from, state stuff to federal stuff. So where I stand on any number of issues. It is all up and all readily available. So.
Well, we look forward to seeing more what you get. I'm glad to hear you're talking about what Keith Lee's been talking about with the permanent fund. I think that's a huge component of it. And I'm just excited to see some of these ideas and some of these movements out there. So appreciate you coming on board, and thank you so much. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bernadette Wilson, our guest. All right, my friends, that's it for us today. We got to go. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. It'll be something. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show. We'll see you then. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.